Okay, so welcome everyone. So this is just a healing, a short, um, energetics embodied healing practice, and this is just something that's come through off the back of the coffee morning this morning. So we've just been having a little bit of a general chitter chatter, and from just general chitter chatter, it actually seems very clear that there's for everyone that's come this morning. For me, there's quite a clear theme of what's coming, or for what people need, I guess. Actually, um, and we've just been talking about. So we'll get started in just a minute, but you can start getting yourself comfortable. But we've been talking, I guess. What's been coming up this morning is how there's the world that we're living in is just so good at trying to pull our attention in um multiple different directions. There's always things trying to grab our attention, but then simultaneously we've all deep down sort of got this internal idea of something that we want to bring forward, and that may be in business, and that may be in our personal life. So we've all sort of got that internal um, motivator, that goal that we would like to work towards. But what I've just sort of been picking up from talking this morning is that sometimes there's a lack of clarity. Um, there's a lack of clarity or full clarity around what that might look like in terms of the steps that we might take, the action that we might take in order to develop that momentum to get towards the thing. And then also we've all got our um those those other parts of ourselves that sometimes aren't fully on board with the version of us that really wants to move things forward, that really wants to achieve the XYZ, that really wants to um, do the yoga class, that really wants to show up online, that really wants to be in the relationship. It doesn't matter what it is. We've always got these sort of two parts within us, I guess. And there's that sort of old, is it an old American Indian tale? This came up last week actually as well. It's like which one do we feed? But sometimes because of the noise around us in the world, sometimes the noise within us, that can be quite tricky to really hone in on what we want to focus on, what we want to feed. So we're going to do a practice today, and the energetics that we're going to be working with, there's two or three main energies. So one is the energy of clarity, two is the energy of target, and three is the energy of focus. Obviously, there's also a lot of other things going on beyond that as well. But then also, we'll just do a little bit of a body brace practice as well. So we'll get started now. So this is probably going to be maximum of 15 minutes for those of you here and for those of you watching on replay. Okay, because these are short but powerful practices. So just taking a moment to sort of get a sense of you in relation to your space. Maybe even just having a little, before you close your eyes, if you haven't already got them closed, just having a little look around your space and just kind of, just getting that sense of the space around you. And then within that space, just starting to allow yourself to settle down into your chair or into your bed or into your seat, wherever you are. And if you want to, you can do this practice with eyes closed, or if you prefer to, then just do it with eyes open, however it feels most comfortable for you. And so most of this is going to be received. So I'm not entirely sure at this point what's going to come up, but it's always exciting and interesting. So maybe just bringing a hand to your heart, or maybe a hand to your belly, or maybe one on each. And just allowing the hands to rest. Maybe you want to bring them both to your heart. So where do the hands naturally want to flow to. And maybe you're not quite sure. Maybe you actually need to have a little bit of a move around. Maybe just have a little bit of a, move the hands into different positions and see, what doesn't feel right. And then maybe letting them land in a place where they just feel like they naturally want to settle. And this kind of links with that theme that we've been talking about, doesn't it? Sometimes we do, and quite often we do have to have a little bit of a, explore around of different things. And that really, first and foremost, forms the research period of, okay, that doesn't feel good. That feels a bit better. I really didn't like that. Oh, but I really seem to like this. So when we think about that, that's actually a necessary part of life. So it's necessary to sort of have that lack of clarity, perhaps in the beginning. But then sometimes that can keep going. And maybe sometimes we keep going with the search because we do find something, but then some of these other fears show up. Maybe it's an imposter syndrome, or maybe it's a belief that, oh, I'd never be able to do that, so there's no point in me even trying. Maybe there's this notion of I could never even allow myself to think about wanting such a thing because that might mean that I get disappointed trying to get it. And it might do. But then to never allow ourselves to even try or to explore or to admit to ourselves we're denying life in some respects. We're denying our truth of view. So with the hands wherever they've landed, just setting an intention now and just flowing to this energy of connecting with your truth of you. And we're all at different points on our energetic journey. But it doesn't matter, because here we're really connecting into that anchor of connecting into our truth of you, truth for you. And this is when we connect into this energy, what this really does is it starts to clear out some of that external noise. And there's various ways it does this, but one of the ways, for example, is anything that we start trying to go towards externally, maybe a course, maybe a person, that really isn't going to bring us any growth, that really isn't aligned with our truth, we will start to feel that as conflict internally. So that's just one of the ways that this will show up. So the visual that I'm being given as we get guided through this practice, and with your hands on your heart space or on your belly, and maybe at this point now it's really nice to have one hand on both, one hand on each. So one hand at the top of the belly, one hand at the heart space. The visual that I'm being flowed to, and just let this flow through to you in the way that feels right for you, is imagine from your heart space down to your navel appears some form of keyhole. Okay, so I didn't know this is where it was going. So your keyhole might be, just a standard door keyhole. Your keyhole might be some beautifully painted, embellished keyhole. So let your imagination energy flow it through in the way that feels right for you. Your keyhole might be polished, polished, shining silver or gold. Your keyhole might come through to you as being a little bit dusty. And there's no right or wrong, okay? It's just your psyche bringing some unconscious messaging. So if you're in control, so if your keyhole's a little bit dusty or a little bit rusty, give yourself something now to start sort of either polishing it up or just starting to make it a little bit brighter, okay? And we're working with all three of those energies here on an unconscious level. So the clarity, the focus, and the target. If your keyhole is bright, shiny, embellished, already looking sort of quite nice and shiny, then that's absolutely fine. Just stay with us for a moment. So if you're cleaning yours up, just kind of like brush any debris away. Your keyhole might be sort of covered in all vines or overgrown garden. I don't know how this is going to come through for you. And you might even want to watch this practice back again for a second time when there's that little bit less sort of on the spot. Okay. But if nothing is coming through you visually, we're not all visual, so don't worry about that, but just sort of let yourself get this sense of this keyhole. Okay. And then you're going to hold out, feel into it for yourself, either your right hand or your left hand. Okay. So just see which one you naturally want to hold out. And whichever hand you've held out, I'm just going to invite you to sort of, sort of open and close that hand and really feel into that hand. Make that hand into a fist and make it really, really tight. And then open that hand up and allow the fingers to spread as wide as they will go. And you might, as you're doing that, you might get flow to sort of reach that arm up into the air, maybe move around into that shoulder. So just notice how that feels, and you might notice some creaks or some cracks. You might notice that shoulder all the way down through the elbow and the hand and the wrist feels quite tight, or it might feel quite free flowing. So just have a little play around with that. You're just moving around the energy, moving around the physical body. Yours might be a slightly smaller movement. Okay. And now, just bringing that hand now as if you're opening it out. So hold it in front of you, opening it out. And then magic now is going to drop a key into this hand. So again, your key going to come through in the way that your key is going to come through for you. So it might be very, very small. It might be a big key. It might be a brightly coloured key. It might be a bone key made from bone. It might be a glass key. So just take a moment. And again, don't worry about this being perfect. Just get some kind of sense of, you don't have to fully see it. Don't get hung up on that. Some sort of key in your hand, and it will have been either your right or left hand. And that will be relevant for you, whichever hand you chose. So knowing now that this is your key, and this is the perfect key for the lock that is from your heart through to your navel. Okay. And when you feel ready, so you can keep sort of playing around with your key, roll it around in your hand, just really notice it, bring it up to your face. And when, and only when, you feel like you've got a really good felt sense of this key and a really good, you've really explored this key, what I'm going to invite you to do, and you might not even do this in this particular practice, you might come back and do this again. You might not feel like you are ready right now, and that's okay. So just come back and do it another time when you are, or you can even do it in your own imagination when you are. But you're going to take that key now, and you're going to get a sense of, or a vision of, you're going to put it inside of this lock that runs from your heart all the way down to your belly. And just notice how it feels when you feel that key filling into that space. So for some of you, it might just feel like, okay, yeah, great, it fits perfectly. For some of you, it might feel like, oh gosh, like the keyhole felt a little bit big, the key felt a little bit small, but just trusting it's the perfect size. It's just how it feels energetically. It might just feel a little bit, oh, that feels a bit strange. It might feel strange. It might feel uncomfortable. And that's just the acclimatization as well. And if it feels too uncomfortable, you can always just take the key out for a little while, maybe come back to this later, or maybe you want to have a play around it, just popping it back in again. And again, then and only when and only when you are ready, all we're going to do to finish this practice is turn that key just one click, either to the left or to the right. There's no right or wrong. It's just whatever you feel to do, both in your body and from an energetic perspective. And we're just turning it one click. That's as far as it'll go today. That's as far as it needs to go. Either to left or to right. And again, just notice what you feel or see what happens. Just spend a final few moments just noticing what that creates inside, noticing what that shifts inside. No need, and really the invitation is to not do this. Don't try to go up into your head now and figure out what's just happened, okay? Because we've just been working also with magic. So if you go and try and figure out what's just occurred, you're going to limit all of the things that magic is going to be doing in what we've just done. So just go, okay, that was a bit weird, or that was a bit different, or that was a bit magical. And then literally forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about the practice. Forget about what it may or may not have done. Just spend a final few moments just feeling. You can feel what's going on inside. Maybe you feel like there's just a bit of a flow that's been created. Maybe you feel like something's been unlocked. Maybe you feel like something's been locked into place. And this is what I mean when I say don't try and figure out what's happened, because it's been different for every single one of you, okay? What's just occurred has been different for every single one of you, depending on what you needed to happen in your energy. Also, knowing that there is physical healing that's taking place now within your physical container over the next 24 to 48 hours. And that change is occurring for you. Okay, and then when you feel ready, just letting go of the energy. Just do that by, you just literally say, let go. But the process will continue. And then when you feel ready, coming back into your physical body, maybe if your hands are still on your heart and your belly, just giving the fingers a wiggle and a tap. Maybe giving yourself a little bit of a stroke and a hug. Maybe giving yourself a full-blown hug. And just thanking yourself for taking the time, for showing up, for being here. And this is this week's practice complete. So let me know how you find it. If you're watching on replay, let me know in the comments how you find this. And yeah, but pay attention now to anything that occurs after this, any little sort of things you notice in your day to day, anything that happens that seems a little bit perhaps out of the ordinary, or anything that seems to align now, or anything that comes as like a complete out of the blue. So just pay attention, and you can always write it underneath this video just to share with, with me and with the community, because also sometimes it's just nice just to have a space to voice these things. Okay, thank you for being here.